This isn't where I parked my channel. Hey guys, I'm Nick of Back Pocket Game Reviews. Some of you may remember me from an earlier video I did here with Proto Mario about GameStop. Today I'm here to talk to you about something other than GameStop, but first let's kick this off with, if you've not followed my channel or checked it out, you can do so. There will be a link in the description box down below, or you can just type in Back Pocket Game Reviews here on YouTube, and you'll find me that way. Also, if you have not subscribed to Proto Mario's channel, you're already here, so you might as well. There's a little button down below. You should click that, subscribe. You can ding that little bell to even let you know when he uploads videos. It's crazy that it occasionally works. Now, moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit about E3. E3 is a huge thing amongst the gaming world. A lot of you are probably younger and maybe not remember E3 to its fullest, or may even not know about some of the events that have happened at E3. But I've sadly been alive through all of them. I'm older than E3, which is kind of upsetting. E3 is old enough to vote, by the way. But E3 actually started in 1995. Yeah, I know. Crazy. The 90s was actually when most of the video games started to reach pretty big popularity status. I'm not saying they weren't popular in the 80s, but the 90s was really where video games flourished and took off to become the juggernaut that it is now. I'm not going to credit all that to Nintendo. Obviously, there were other things that played into that as well, but the 90s was really the key point of why video games became what they are now. So in 1995 was the first E3, and before that they actually showed off their games at CES. CES is the Consumer Electronics Show, which is where most tech and stuff like that is shown off, like new versions of Windows or the Surface. Stuff along those lines are typically what is shown at CES. Now, there are other big gaming events too, like the Tokyo Game Show or Paris Games Week, but E3 is kind of like the creme de la creme of them. And you will have some YouTubers who would say today E3 doesn't matter because of all the leaks, such as the supposed Walmart leak that happened. Most of the games that were leaked by Walmart were already known about. You still don't know really much detail-wise about them, and it's still not as exciting as E3. Walmart accidentally posting something isn't really as exciting as here's a trailer, here's what we got planned, and here's the release date. I mean, if we're being honest, there's been times where they've shown off a lot of products at E3 and they've said available now, which is fine when it's like an indie game. If you're Sega, they would tell you to probably never release your console that way. Sega did that with the Sega Saturn, and it kind of bit them a little bit in the backside. They were trying to beat other things to the market. Now, on top of that, there have been good times that hardware has released it as available now. The Xbox 360 Slim version was actually released at E3 and available immediately after they showed it off. It's pretty cool. I went out and got mine like a week later. I couldn't afford to buy one that day, but my 360 was chugging along. Obviously, the 360 kind of had some issues at the time, but it was really a step in the right direction for the Xbox 360 at that time. So it was a good idea. And a lot of people are going to have predictions for you about what's going to happen at E3, because that's how excited people get. Obviously, I'm going to probably have a bunch of prediction videos for you, like Stubbs the Zombie, available at E3, Stubbs the Zombie 2. It's what I want. Please, Microsoft, just give me Stubbs the Zombie. But there's also been a lot of fails, there's been a lot of highs, there's been a lot of lows, and E3 didn't actually used to be for the consumer that much. The way you used to hear about all the stuff they showed off at E3 was through your favorite gaming publication. For me at the time in the 90s, it was definitely Nintendo Power, but there were plenty of other options, and this is all predating the whole you've got mail by a little bit. I mean, the World Wide Web in 1995 wasn't vastly popular yet. Most people in their homes didn't have the internet. I know it seems really hard to believe that was only 20-some years ago that we didn't have access to the internet, and it sounds absolutely absurd, that most of us would have to research things in a book rather than just typing it in a Google search. But it wasn't all that long ago. Gaming publications are still around, obviously. They still cover it. And most of those gaming publications cover it here on YouTube, like IGN. A lot of those companies are there at E3 filming it live. The Xbox itself, you can literally click, and they even have an interactive version where you can select certain buttons and buy your stuff instantly. Like, it'll literally pop up saying, do you want to pre-order this now? Hey, this is literally available now. Do you want to buy it? I mean, granted, it's great for those of you who have impulse purchasing problems, but I don't want to go blowing all my money while watching it, so I watch the standard version without the interactive content. You can even watch it on the PlayStation or anything that has YouTube, because it's on YouTube. Sony will put theirs up on their channel. And the other thing that people don't necessarily understand are those events that we see. Those are relatively newer. They started in the late 2000s, where they would literally rent their own theater. They're not even technically a part of E3. So Microsoft rents a theater, Sony rents a theater. Nintendo doesn't. They do their little Nintendo Direct that's more personal, and you have to watch it on their devices or their YouTube channel. But Xbox and Sony rent these huge theaters and put on these huge press events. And I mean, Xbox has had Circus de Olay there to show off a Kinect game. Boy, I bet they missed their mark and spent a lot more on advertising than they made on it for that. But there's been huge moments, like The Rock was actually there to unveil the first Xbox. That's right, The Rock, the people's elbow, The Rock. I would have paid really good money to watch him give a rock bottom to Bill Gates. I like Bill Gates, but I still would have found it hilarious to see him get a rock bottom. But, I mean, Sony's even had fails there. Nintendo's had fails there. Shigeru Miyamoto, when showing off a Nintendo DS, actually awkwardly hit on a girl on stage showing it off with him. And when I say awkward, I mean it was really awkward. Like, cringe-worthy awkward. Or when Sony announced that they were going to charge $100 more for the PS3 than what they originally announced, pricing it $100 more than the Xbox at the time, and cutting out a bunch of the features, and then showing off a game and saying attack the crab's critical points to deal massive damage. And there's been times where companies probably should just shut their mouths rather than making themselves look foolish in front of their customers. And I know that's weird because we all think of Sony as like, oh, they could do no wrong at E3, but all of them have pretty much messed up. Xbox has messed up when they showed off the Xbox One originally and showed off all the DRM. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been some problems here over the several years of them showing off the consoles. But this is a huge event if you're anyone who likes gaming as a whole, because it's going to show you everything that is upcoming for the rest of the year. I mean, granted, you should already kind of have an idea of some of the things that will be there, but every year there is going to be something to take you off guard. And just because you're at E3 too, also keep in mind, since these companies are doing these pressers in separate buildings, you don't necessarily get access to those press events. Obviously, you have to be invited. I am not invited. You probably weren't invited, but if you were, you should have invited me and Proto, because we make excellent travel partners. I'm sure we could have easily made the highlight of your whole week at E3 by taking us along with you. But it is a huge thing at E3. Like, this is a huge event. There's inside the actual building, there is a bunch of try and hands-on and new stuff that you might not even hear about unless you actually read about it, because they're not going to be at Microsoft or Sony's conferences. It's just going to be little things at a booth that might go unnoticed. So the whole event itself is actually quite incredible and awesome that the consumer is actually more involved now, because as I said, you just have to read about it in an actual magazine. I know, and most of you probably don't even know what a magazine is these days. It's absurd. But it is really interesting to see them. Last year was the first year that they actually let the public, the general public, get tickets. You used to have to be involved to some extent to go to these events. Like, you could actually apply if you worked at GameStop. You could apply if you worked at Best Buy in the gaming department. There are different ways to get in without you having to be a game developer, but you still had to have some part in the actual gaming industry. And again, to a lot of us that are huge gamers, this is almost as big of a deal as like going to Disney or getting to see some of the cool Star Wars snippets as a pre-release. I mean, this is on that kind of a par to most gamers. So guys, out of curiosity, I would love to hear about whatever your favorite E3 moment is. What is your favorite moment you've ever seen at E3? What do you think just blew everything out of the water? Obviously, if they announce The Elder Scrolls 6 at Bethesda's conference this year, Bethesda wins E3. I may be a bit of a Bethesda fanboy, but I'm pretty sure most people would agree with me there. Guys, let us know down below. Me and Proto would love to see what you guys think is just what is your E3 highlight. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up, and maybe at some point I'll be back here on the channel to talk to you about some more stuff and things and stuff. I'll see you all soon, and maybe I'll even see you on my channel.